Cool people doing cool shit. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
Okay. Let's start for real.
Okay.
I'm here with Chuck Marshall from Life in Michigan.
That's right.
As well as other things. Life in Michigan, Sunday Sip, the new thing, Gig.
Yeah.
Did we meet at...
I
feel we met at like a Michigan Brewers Guild thing. Probably.
Pretty sure we met. I think. Well, I know I remember meeting you, and I think Kyle at the same time.
Yeah.
Potentially when you both were doing filming for the Great Beer State documentary that you're doing with Fred.
Yeah.
I think that's when it was. And then I interviewed you guys remotely via Zoom to do like a little behind the scenes, like how did that thing come together? How did that documentary come together? And I think that was the most of the time that I spent talking with you, because kind of getting the behind the scenes process about, all the editing, like thousands and thousands of hours of like footage that we have to go through, and some of it's all crap because it's old, and so yeah.
It's it's interesting in that is that particular project. Who knew in 1990 whatever it was?
I know.
That this would be a thing.
Yeah.
And as we were editing that, most of the actual footage that we had was Fred separately was doing his This Craft Nation podcast with Kyle.
Yeah.
The only reason there's any footage at all is because Fred and Kyle were there, and they're like, well, I brought my GoPro, so might as well throw it up.
Yeah.
And it was okay. It was usable footage, luckily.
Yeah.
But it was an afterthought for sure.
Yeah.
And as we were editing that together, my first thought was, well, shit, the cannabis industry is in... Because the Brewers Guild footage was all about people talking about that era where there is no footage. I'm like, well, what if we actually like heard that and filmed things?
Do you think people are doing that now, though? I would hope so, because I would
hope so, but I think on a very informal level.
Like home movies thing, where someone's like, oh, let's film this because this might be important later on down the line. But I don't think, I was thinking about it when you were talking about that, like, I don't know if people necessarily, like, when they're in the throes of an industry like that, like the craft beer revolution, it's getting itself going, I don't think those people were necessarily thinking about, oh, I need to document this crap, right? It's like after the fact, they're like, oh, that story about so-and-so doing X, Y, and Z, real ale out in Chelsea in the early 80s and shit like that. No one's thinking of like, oh, we should document the hell out of this. I think if you did, I would be wondering about the personality of that person. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's like some selfie shit.
That's like when you see because I hate the word influencer and content creator. Like, we were in a meeting just recently, and they're talking about, content creation. And I'm like, oh God, can we just, I don't know, there has to be they're an artist, a digital artist, I don't know what the hell you want to call them, but that just feels like you're a factory pushing out shit that, I don't know.
I'm sure that term was created with the best of intentions, but it sounds incredibly cynical.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I have to sell you on the idea, but like, if you're actually doing stuff, you never have to think about, should I show people that I'm doing stuff? And if you say content creator, you're like, that's the primary driver, is that we need to show people that I'm creating content.
Yeah.
And starts to veer into kind of a fuck off
Yeah,
situation.
it does.
Even though we might be considered that thing.
Oh, yeah. See, but I think
But
I think of this as like storytelling, right? You like when you're interviewing somebody or you're talking about like what they're doing, like I don't think your goal, my goal is not to like, oh, here's this awesome shit that I'm doing and you should be paying attention. I just have stories. Like I think everybody has these stories that they want to tell. I think we're born to want to do that, like to just share that kind of stuff. And I think other people, if it resonates with them, they wanna experience, they wanna hear that story, or it may be a learning thing or whatever. But yeah, so yes, you could say that me and you talking right now, it's part of an interview process. It's not like, and we're filming ourselves talk, but we could have just talked anyway, and it would have still been just as awesome. But now we can share it with somebody. And maybe that would be good.
And honestly, the fact that we have to worry about that stuff is an annoying distraction, because I would want to have this conversation just anyway.
Yeah.
Because if you need the cameras to be rolling for you to have your half of the conversation, neither one of us wants to talk to each other, if that's the case. But if you have something to say, who even fucking cares if the cameras are rolling? But I want to caveat. I've been really insecure lately about how often I talk about my shit.
Yeah.
It feels too much. And my point is always to be like, oh yeah, I get that. Here's a similar story from my, but then it turns into like talking about me, and I fucking hate that. Who gives a shit? So before we go too far down that road, I want to talk about one. We met at Beer Fest. Mm-hmm. What is your thing with beer?
With beer?
And maybe as you address that, how have you not become an alcoholic? Because if you appreciate beer, that is
you can go off
a bit
the
of
rails.
a slippery slope.
Oh yeah,
potentially.
Yeah. So I got into beer. I think I always liked a little bit of beer, even when I was a little kid. My dad drank beer, so he'd give you a sip and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. And then when you're in high school, you kind of you drink just to drink, but you're not really tasting it. And it wasn't until I would say, there used to be a place, it's gone now, it was the One-Eyed Moose in Ann Arbor. They had all these different beers, like 100 different beers. They were from around the world. It was right before or right at the time that craft beer was starting to come into, I didn't know what craft beer was. But they had like Hockershore.
Are you old enough to know that, to have experienced the era when what constituted craft beer was exclusively whatever Sierra Nevada was putting out?
Pretty much,
okay.
Yeah, because my experience, my early craft beer was Sierra Nevada, Pete's Wicked Ale.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Pete's. I forgot about Pete's.
Yeah, Red Hook from Seattle. And we went to, so there was this place, served German beers. I'm like, oh, there's this other flavors besides Bud Light, Or I think if we were really going crazy, you'd get like Michelob, right? You're like, oh, this is really, this is something for beer. And so, had taste those other beers and like, oh, it was more about the flavor. And, when you're talking about like alcoholism, I think my dad potentially was an alcoholic. I think parts of my parents created things in me. I think it's a lot of people happens to them, I just don't want to be my parents, right? I don't want to make those same mistakes. So it was very cognizant to me about like trying to, not that I've been a saint, I've drank it irresponsibly. But I think it's that evolution of like the flavor of it and not necessarily wanting to just drink in excess I've not ever been an alcoholic, so I don't know what that is like to have that kind of pressing need. I've never really struggled with any kind of addiction at all, and I can't necessarily relate. But
Loser.
but I feel like that would be like I could see where it would be super hard, right? If you really got into that drink. But so far, I'm old now, so I don't think it's gonna happen where I would suddenly develop an addiction. But the whole craft beer thing, just kind of got into the flavors and then got into the with Sierra Nevada and stuff like that, and then discovered that it was starting to come out in Michigan, like Bell's, and I think we used to go to what's that place? Gaylord Big Buck, because that was an early one, and I just have always been a fan of that, and always been a fan of that concept of it. It just felt like it's such a craft thing, and part of me would like get back into seeing like in England there would be pubs here and there everywhere, right? It's a part of the environment. Same with in Germany or other places where beer is a kind of a part of the social fabric. So it just made me think like that it's so cool that it's here in our state, and that then I was just like, I just want to go experience this and go check out more beers. And then next thing you know, I'm like taking the camera to the beer fest and shooting some pictures. And then me and Brenda started Life in Michigan. And like, let's tell stories about beer. And then next thing you know, we're part of the Brewers Guild, and shooting shows. And so, yeah.
So there's lots of aspects to talk about with you, but there's the beer part, but I know you as a guy that shows up as a photographer to beer events. So one, how did that happen, and how did that evolve? And also, you show up with your wife.
Yep.
Which we all know is a bit of a roll of the dice as to whether you can work together.
Yeah.
Even in a great partnership,
yeah.
It might not be a great working relationship.
Yeah.
But one, you show up at these things as a photographer with your wife, with whom it's clear you guys work so beautifully together. So that was a lot. But to wrap that all up. Do my work for me. Wrap that all up.
So me and Brenda, so I was divorced, she was divorced. We met, I think it's 14 years ago. It'd be 15 this December. We met and hit it off, and I fell in love with her. Like it was, short amount of time. One of the very first places we went, like our first date was at Grizzly Peak, a beer place. She did not drink beer. Like she was like, and she still is primarily a wine person.
Okay.
But she has developed a taste for beer from being around me. But at first she was like, I don't know about this beer stuff. And then the next thing, we went to the Ann Arbor Folk Fest because she had tickets for that. And then literally like maybe a month, 2 months later, we were at the Winter Beer Fest here in Grand Rapids. It was the first time she'd been with me to a festival and stuff. I think that was also the time. So I'd been into photography since I was in 7th grade. Shot a whole bunch until I was like 19, and then got super into guitar and played in band. And so I didn't pick up a camera for years. Then I jacked up my thumb and had to have surgery, and I couldn't play guitar. So then I was like, all right, what am I gonna do? Let's go get a camera. So I bought a camera, started
Quick
shooting.
side note, have
Yeah.
you noticed that those two things sort of ebb and flow, and
Yeah.
you dive into one hardcore and you ignore the one, and then
Yeah,
it switches back and you ignore the other?
yeah.
Because
My guitar is still getting ignored like heavily, whereas because the camera is like I'm still doing a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
what we're trying to do. I've been trying to like move myself back into music, but yes, because you get you get into that flow of whatever you're doing with one thing or the other, and both are two different creative processes that you can get tied up into. You can get into mechanics of both, if you want to get technical about them, but at the end of the day, hopefully it's an artistic experience, created. I'll be honest, I feel more creative with a guitar than I do with the camera. But yeah, so anyway, me and Brenda, I was doing the photography thing, just trying to figure out what I was doing, what I wanted to take pictures. Started taking it to the beer fest, take some pictures there. And she had been doing a blog, writing about her life and with her kids. And I was like, I should start a website with images, and that didn't go anywhere. It was, the website was called Just Chucking Around. It lasted for like 5 seconds. I maybe put 2 images out there. And she's like, well, why don't we join forces? So that's how we kind of got together with Life in Michigan. It's like our stories, that's what basically it is, Life in Michigan, our lives in Michigan. And it just kind of evolved into let's talk about whatever we're doing. So when we first met, we were both huge runners, So there's trail running in there, there's all that stuff.
Okay.
There was, obviously we both love travel, and then I love beer. She learned to love beer. She's, but like you said, now when we go to the festivals, we're talking about that, sharing the stories about it, not just trying to give you here's X, Y, and Z beer, but this was this fun thing that happened here, or we saw so-and-so, our buddy Jay Green from Perrin, and we're hugging on him or whatever, or saw you, so trying to make it, a little bit more fun experience. And that's, but yes, I do think we, like you were saying, there can be, when you're working with your partner, who's your partner in life, that can be, it can be a challenge, but so far we have found that we work really great together, and it's just part of our lives. That's what we're doing. We're both retired now, so we're focused full time on, doing that stuff and having fun with it.
Well, and also, I was going to say earlier that, yes, working with your life partner can be challenging, but applause to both of you guys, because when you find a common interest to pour all of your energy into, and also you get to, it becomes I get to go home with them and experience the rest of life. And none of this feels like the part of it that I have to endure until I can clock out.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a not to overstate it, but you guys are experiencing, as I'm sure that you are well aware, you are experiencing what everyone aspires to and rarely gets to experience.
I'm hoping that's not true. I would love for everyone to have those things and have, something that they can share with somebody else. I mean, I don't care who it is. It's your wife, it's your girlfriend, your best friend, whatever. But those things that you can just have that synergy with someone else and share them and do something. Hopefully it's creative, but it doesn't have to be. I think almost everything that we do as humans is have some kind of creative impact one way or the other, whether you're putting together a car or you're, whatever, right? There's some element in there, but I'm hoping that everybody has some kind of something they love, that makes it just that. I mean,
have you seen photos of my fucking insane son.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. He's batshit crazy, but every day you go home and you're like, what do we got today? like for real, if I get a text and said from him that says, hey, when are you going to be home? Because he does not give one shit. I could never be home ever again. And he'd be like, whatever. But if I get a text from him that says, when do you think you'll be home? I'm like, oh. Fuck. What awesome thing am I about to experience?
There's another new car or some other contraption that's going to...
Yeah, he just finally got his full welder kit. Because as you probably know, he stripped a Lexus IS300 down to the frame and the engine, and he's dropping a 1952 Dodge pickup truck on top of it, and he just needs to be able to weld that together.
Oh man.
But to what you were saying earlier, I think that it's unfortunately more rare than we would all hope to experience that with a partner.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you for living everyone's dream, but and to Brenda.
Yeah.
Because
that's right.
This guy, he's everybody's dream. But I wanted to follow up with, you had both been divorced, so clearly, without, I don't need to know that stuff, but you clearly have had the other version of that experience.
Right.
And without going into details, what was that experience like for you? And because I've been through divorce too, did it introduce insecurities as your relationship with Brenda developed? Am I too much?
Yeah.
Am I too weird?
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in beer, music, and
travel.
Yeah. Might that be a little much for somebody?
Right. Yeah, it's when I was younger, I was focused on getting through school, getting a job, and I was also into music. So I was very serious. Well, it's hard to say because I know that musicians that are trying to make it, like, they're a real thing, that there's going to be their driving force in life. And that doesn't even sound right, because I know there's musicians that don't do it for a living, but it is their driving force in life. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I was like, maybe I can make a shot of doing that, like be in a band, and that's what we do, right? But I honestly just didn't have the courage to do it, because that meant accepting a huge amount of risk, and I'm pretty risk averse. So there was that dynamic right there. And so when, my past life.
Risk averse.
Yeah.
And yet you're living a professional life that is nothing but.
No.
So.
See, I had the two dynamics of my world, whereas I was a professional doing another job, right? That's made the money that I could do all the other cool stuff that I wanted to do.
Okay.
So if I don't know if I would be a good struggling artist, because I wanted to have that financial security. So I did.
Nobody is.
Yeah. So I did IT, right? And I was good at it, and I did it for almost 30 years. And so that paid bills, so I could do all these other things. And that's what I was doing then, before I got divorced. I just got to a point in that band, kind of just fizzled out. I was running the band, but it wasn't working out. And so I was burnt out on the whole process after doing it in, I don't know, about 7 years, I think. Anyway, got to a point where in my life where then we're like, what else are we doing, you know? And then my parents, they died fairly early, like about 65, I think. So I was 35-ish. And my mom, I just remember my mom saying, like, when my dad passed away, and I felt so bad about it because she was not upset about the fact that he passed away necessarily. There was a sense of relief, but she told me, she said, I wasted my life with them. And I felt like that's what I was doing. Like, I'm gonna waste my life. The person I was married to was a totally wonderful person, but I didn't feel like
Just weren't right for each other.
Yeah,
Why did your mom feel like she wasted her life with your dad?
you know, so she was a fantastic musician. Like, she.
Oh, right, yeah. The guitar.
Yeah, the guitar I have.
Which
from
I don't
her,
think we've mentioned on camera, but
we have it. So
yeah.
So it's a '76 Les Paul signature, like a double. Looks like a 330, but it's a different style of guitar. She got that in 1976 because prior to that, when she had been growing up, she learned how to play steel guitar in Detroit. You know, she was a music teacher. She knew backwards and forwards. She used to work at a store, so she got ensconced with music. It was Behringer Music. It was on Werner, way back in 60s, early 70s. That's where she learned how to play steel guitar, Hawaiian music, and she was like, pedal steel and all that stuff. And my dad liked music, but he was not too keen about my mom playing music, like professionally or just playing out in bands.
Oh no.
Yeah. So created this really bad, and so she gave it up. She gave it up.
No.
Yeah. And then when in '76, my mom's like, my dad was struggling and couldn't. He was unemployed basically, and so my mom's like, I got to do something. Like, we got these kids, we gotta. I've got 2 brothers and a sister. I'm the oldest, so we've got 4 kids, and you're not working, so I'm gonna start getting back into music, teaching and playing. And so that's where that guitar came from. But that's why I think she felt like she wasted her life, because she had these opportunities to do things with music and to teach and she's taught on and off, but I think she felt like she missed an opportunity by marrying my dad. Now, of course, I wouldn't be here if she hadn't done that, but when she said that to me, I was like, I gotta do something. I should not be here in what I was at. So then I made a change. And I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that, because I met Brenda online, actually, with like Match.com way back, like early days. And she told me the story because at that time I always lived in Pinckney. That's where I went to high school. But I was living in Saline. And she had a thing about like Saline's like Saline is just, people from Saline or whatever. She had a feeling about them. So when she saw that, she almost didn't accept like going out with me. And so we always joke about that. It's like, oh, you took a chance on Saline. So, but yeah, she's like everything I would want, everything I've wanted. And together we've been like living a meaningful life. So
that's amazing. And even just in pictures, well, you and I know, like we work with cameras.
Yeah.
You can see in people's eyeballs if they're in it or not, like immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see.
And you can see in pictures of both you and Brenda, like your eyeballs tell the whole story. Like, sad eyeballs don't reflect light.
Yeah, and I think
Fulfilled eyeballs are sparkly as fuck. And that's what I see in pictures of both of you guys. Whether you're both in the picture or not, you're clearly at the thing together. And your eyes, you guys are probably both horrible liars, is my impression.
Yeah, that's probably safe to say. Yeah.
Yeah, because your eyes give you away every time.
Yeah.
But tell me, we haven't talked about this yet, but talk about, yes, you love beer. We've established that. but a lot of the stuff that I see that you post is you're at yet another metal show.
Yeah.
Which is, I love it. I love it. And I definitely, when you post a photo, I go check out that band.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So tell me about that, not only as a fan, but as a player.
Yeah. So I think having played in a band shaped my thoughts about taking pictures of local bands, because I know what it was like to just be, the five of us on stage and there's like two drunks out there, and nothing against drunks, but there's nobody there, right? Or you're playing to a house you're really happy about, and it was full and it was fun. And so yeah, I was very much into heavy metal when I was growing up. I mean, I started listening to Elton John. That was my first album. I attribute my heavy metal to a couple things. Sixth grade, getting Kiss Alive and getting into that kind of that theatrical level of, and then ninth grade getting into Rush.
Oh yeah.
Like the first Rush album, then getting into 2112.
How old are you?
I'm 59. I'll be 60.
Are you shitting me?
No. I'll be 60 in...
Jesus Christ, dude.
I'll be 60 in April.
Holy fuck. You're like this area of Chuck's life does not... Holy shit.
How old did you think I was?
My age?
Well, how old are you, Seth?
52. But before we forget, gig.
Oh,
the
gig.
the new thing that you're doing.
New thing, yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so me, Brenda, so Life in Michigan, along with Manchester Music Underground, which is some friends of ours that have been running that. Steve Gerbach, John Mooneyham, Jason Heinrich, Berkeley Tinsley. Sorry, Berkeley, if I'm butchering your last name. And then Lori Stratton, who's a writer. She does some writing for Ann Arbor Pulp. So anyway, I do a podcast called Fans with Bands, and I talk to fans and, mostly bands. And if they have their fans come on, we do that. We do it via Zoom. So I wanted to kind of showcase Manchester Underground.
Sure. Tell me just real quick, don't lose your train of thought.
Yeah.
Because one of us has to not have ADHD. But Fans with Bands.
Yeah.
That's a really cute, punny name. Yeah. But I've never been sure what that meant.
Yeah.
So you're talking to bands.
Yep.
But maybe they'll bring fans into the conversation.
Yep. Yeah. So I set it up so that it's it's recorded via Zoom. So anybody we don't have to be in a particular room. It was a pandemic, baby, so it's like that's how it came up because I couldn't shoot shows.
Right.
So then I was like, and I'd done like a few years of interviews with like for a couple other outlets, just go talk to Phil Anselmo or, so and so. And I always thought it would be really cool if you were a fan, you could jump in, maybe have a question, you could talk to them or whatever. So the grandiose idea was like you're talking to all these different bands, but it has become and still is primarily a focus for local Michigan bands.
Okay.
So I talked to them to kind of figure out, because I don't know how they started. I don't know what they got into. If they've got an album, we'll talk about that. But if they have fans that want to join us, then they can jump on the Zoom too. So they can invite their fans. Sometimes it's like a reunion with, so-and-so's mom gets on and so-and-so's brother, and then, some other dude that, loves their music. Other times it's just me and the band. Other times it's like some other band's like, oh, we're fans of this band, so we're going to be on there too. So that's kind of just how that whole thing has been going along. And it's still going on. It's like the 4th season we were doing. It's another one of those things like Gig, and that's sort of a passion project. So Gig started, what it is basically is I wanted to showcase the artists that are behind the Michigan music scene. What I mean by that is that you've got concert photographers, you got gig poster artists, you got the artists that create the t-shirt designs, album covers or CD covers, that type of art, that's the visual art to the musical component. And a lot of times when you see, and there's no fault to the band necessarily because they're promoting themselves, right? But they've commissioned somebody to create some artwork for them or take photos. But you don't know necessarily when you see that who it is, that artist, and you might want to say, oh, that poster's kicks ass. I want to know who did that, and maybe I will get some other stuff. If you're a person that enjoys that visual aspect, you might want to know about who that is. So,
a good example from our youth would be whoever it was that was doing all of the Metallica shirts.
Yeah. Or
because that was clearly like one person.
Derek Riggs from Iron Maiden.
Oh yeah,
he created Eddie,
the Eddie guy.
Right? Yeah. So I mean, he's probably one of the most famous ones, right? And then what was it? What's the guy? Rob. He's the photographer. He's working with Metallica now, I think. Rob.
Ross Halfin.
Ross. That's what it is. Yeah. So people know his name, but not everybody else knows all the other people that might have taken that picture or whatever. So that was the idea. That is the idea. Is Gig is this showcase to showcase that art. So have an exhibit set up. So what we're going to do, we've got the dates. It's November 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's going to be in Jackson, Michigan, at the Art 634, which is on North Mechanics 634 North Mechanic Street. Not too far from the prison. It's a really cool space. Actually, back in, I guess, the 1800s, they used to build carriages there. So really cool event space, very cool people that are helping us put that on from Art 634. But yeah, it's going to be a 3-day deal. We'll have the art up there from various artists. We haven't gotten to the art submission stage yet, but that's coming up shortly. Mm-hmm. So we'll have, photographs, we'll have poster art, we'll have album art, t-shirts, and then I did this before and it was just an art show. This time we're going to make it a little bit more by having some live music. So Friday night's going to be like the VIP night where you meet the artists, you get to have some dinner, enjoy some beers or whatever you want from the bar, and then bands. Saturday, and this came from my partners in Manchester Music Underground, and talking with some other folks in these music mixers that Jennifer Westwood had been putting on. I don't know if you know her and Dylan.
I don't think so.
They're from Detroit, great artists. And they've been working really hard to try to promote the music scene because they're traveling musicians and they see that Detroit could use a little help and maybe Michigan as a whole. But anyway, so Saturday will be like learning sessions. So like, how do I set, like if you're an artist, how do I set up an LLC? What are some strategies for social media? We're gonna have a guy from Fret Rescue who's gonna come out and do like guitar setup and maintenance kind of thing. Hopefully we'll have like maybe a photographer in there to talk about like what it's like to do concert photography. I'm hoping to get somebody that's had like a lot of experience with that so they can kind of share their story about it. Mm-hmm. But that's the kind of thing for Saturday afternoon.
Wouldn't that just be you?
It could be, but I don't want to be like the focus dude. And I think there's other people that have much more experience and are better than me in many ways. So
I'm calling bullshit, but I understand where you're coming from. But
so Saturday night we'll have some more music, some more local bands playing, and then Sunday we'll have the music market. So we'll have like from noon to 4. We got to get nailed on our times and our schedule, which will be coming out soon. But basically on the Sunday, we'll have like, buy some vinyl. So for some vinyl record sales and maybe some band merch from some bands that want to sell their stuff, and maybe some of the artists there do and have some other stuff they want to show. So and hopefully maybe even have some instruments, because there's some small instrument makers,
cool.
So there's like Virtue Drums in Jackson. There's what is it? Forgetting it. They're made in Lansing. She makes bass guitars. She's like, these things are beautiful. She's in a band called One with the Riverbed, a kind of blackened death metal band. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, but her basses are fantastic. So get some of those folks, some like, handcrafted instrument makers and such. So that's the idea. 3 days, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Because I think what we'd like to have this is to have it go in perpetuity, keep doing this, keep doing this show like this, and keep promoting those, because I feel like it's a area of art that could be stand the exposure, and then in conjunction with that, help raise up the Michigan music community, hopefully. So by doing those two things, I think it creates that synergy. And so we're now looking to see if we could just create a nonprofit. So give the Art of Michigan Music Foundation that drives this show, that then it allows us to help pay for that kind of advocacy, pay for the event, and then also help us keep it going.